Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Scott Eastin joining us. Scott, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
So Scott, for those who don't know you, aren't familiar with your work, just take a moment and explain what you do.
Sure. So again, my name is Scott Eastin. I am the owner and principal of Eastin IT Security. We are a specialty Microsoft security firm that specializes in implementing a number of Microsoft security packages really at the enterprise, the large customer level. And so we work with lots of different Microsoft regional business partners and a lot of their end clients implementing those security tools and platforms.
What's your background in terms of actually getting into IT security?
That's actually a good question. It was not one of those where I had a lot of forethought about it or whatnot. I had, way back when, had actually gotten into information technology when I was first out of grad school. I did not have a technical background, was always interested in it. But the first place that I worked when I graduated from grad school, I was in the accounting group, and that was in the 90s, and technology was really kind of hitting the mainstream, if you will. And I had an aptitude for that and became IT director for that company, and then ultimately went to work in consulting for a larger firm. And that's really kind of where I got my IT chops, if you will. Well, fast forward a few years later, I'm a partner at a smaller firm. We're doing a lot of application development or whatnot. And we work with a lot of large multinational firms. And I had a specific background working with a very large beverage company here in Atlanta, and had actually worked there for several years and ended up just moving on to greener pastures for more challenging projects. Well, lo and behold, one of their subsidiaries one day was having a technical problem, and the rep and our channel partner happened to know me and asked if I would be willing to go back in the environment and help them out tuning some databases and whatnot. And I told them I really only want to be there for a week or two. Well, fast forward, that project and that customer engagement, I think, lasted almost 5 years. And that's where I really got into learning the security tools, and was very fortunate where I was a decent technology problem solver. And so as they had different tools that would come into that group, I would get a crack at doing it because they just didn't have anyone, at least at that time, with the aptitude to solve those technical problems. So as a consultant, I got to play with all the new toys, and that was really beneficial when I ended up leaving there and moving on to other things. So that's really kind of in a nutshell. I just, in some ways, just kind of happened into it. And I guess in some ways in life, it's almost better than it being planned, is that it just kind of works out the way that it's supposed to.
Right. And I know that today, I mean, you have a 7-figure consulting business, and it wasn't always like this. Take us back to the early days. Did you find it easy to start consulting and getting clients, or was that a real challenge for you?
So when I to back up my history, I've been a partner in several smaller 25-person firms, maybe a little bit larger here and there. And so really, I've always been involved in a group. And I think I would imagine for many on the audience here, those that are going into consulting or either on their own or working in larger firms, thinking about stepping out on their own, I kind of reached a place where it made a lot more sense for me to just go out on my own and be focused on the technical work. And that's really initially how I stepped out and got moving along. And so I was really kind of that heads down focused technician, because I kind of reached a point where I didn't necessarily really want to manage people, at least at that time. And to be completely upfront, there were some business dealings that didn't quite go the way that I wanted. And I just decided that, I didn't want to have partners or anything like that. And I just wanted to do my own thing. And so for the first year or two, or the first several years, I would say, being very technically focused and having a lot of contacts, it was fairly easy to land consulting gigs.
What made it easy for you?
The thing is that when you are selling yourself or a project or a technology, a lot of firms that, at least from a technical perspective, firms want to find a technical implementer that can talk the tech talk, if you will, but I think even more importantly, be able to relate to those that write the checks.
Mm.
That's what I would say is really my big advantage, is that I can do the technical work, but I think more importantly, I can get up in front of people, tell some jokes, try to make things fun when talking about technology, or at least not put people to sleep. And I think having those type of two skills, that makes it a lot easier to close business, because really at the end of the day, if you put on your buyer's hat, right? That person wants to know that, can I trust this person to implement this particular technology? And is this someone that I trust and that I can do business with? And that's really how I've tried to present myself. And so that's really how I go about it. And it helps me close business, and it helps me get lots of repeat customers as well.
I think that's a really great lesson and insight for people, just the importance of ensuring that you look at things through the lens of the buyer. And that feeds in and connects into so many different aspects of our business, from the conversations and the approach that you have to clients, to your messaging and marketing materials, what your offerings are. So that's a really good one. So things you're mentioning here sound really rosy, right? They sound great. Like things have been going pretty good from the start, but I'm sure that you've encountered some challenges along the way as well, Scott. So what stands out for you as maybe some key challenges that you faced early on in your business?
I would say from an early on in the business perspective, since it was just me, it was fairly easy because I could essentially kind of take care of myself, if you will, really over the last few years. And I think a lot of this was, to be fair to the audience, I had gone through your consulting success program, and I feel that that and some other personal development things that I did really kind of helped me make a decision to grow my business and not just make it me. And so over the last several years, I've really made a push of leveraging my relationships and actually bringing in more subcontractors to help expand the business. And that's really what has driven most of the growth, is that, number one, knowing who those target customers are, and then number two, trying to find the right technical resources or contractors to be able to work with me on those projects. So that's really been where the growth has come from, and also the challenges. And really over the last year, I would say the personnel side of the business has been by far the biggest challenge.
Mm.
Trying to manage contractors, trying to manage the relationship between contractors and the customers. That is, has really, over the last year, it kind of ebbs and flows, but that's typically by far the biggest challenge that I have, is that personnel management side.
Okay, well, let's come back there because I definitely want to explore the model and structure that you've been using for growth. I know that you mentioned, well, actually, one thing that you mentioned really got my interest here, and I'd like to explore it for a minute with you. So, you came into our coaching program. I know you said that helped you, but even more importantly, in my mind, you said that you could control yourself, and you talked about it just being you as actually an advantage at that time. Whereas many people would look at that and say, well, I'm just by myself. They would use that as an excuse almost for being overwhelmed or not making the progress that they want. But you really positioned that right now, that in a way where it sounded like it was a positive. Clearly, you have a mindset of success. I'm wondering, where does that come from? How do you support that mindset, or how have you created it so that you feel, yeah, I'm in control and I'm going to make happen what I want to make happen?
Well, I always joke with people that I have too much German in my background. So maybe that's why the trains have to run on time with me. But it's one of those where I think that's just kind of always the way that I've been. I'm not one of these people who, and I can't remember the name of the lady that was on the show, I think several months ago, who obviously a very driven lady and staying up to literally 1 in the morning working on her business and the marketing on all that. I think that that is fantastic for some people. I'm not one of those people that will willing to stay up that late. But
Hmm.
what I try to do is I try to maximize every moment that I have during the day. My method is I have a pad and I literally divide that pad up into quadrants every morning about what I need to do from it's literally what I call my upper right hand corner, my top 6 items I need to accomplish every day. And then the other 3 quadrants are my sales items, my standard operating stuff, and then the personal items. And I literally go through that list every day, and that's how I attack it. That's how I've done it for several years. And I think the other important thing is to always have a schedule. I mean, most of my business is run out of my house, but I run a what I would consider for most people that work at home a fairly regimented at home schedule where I get up at the same time every day.
Hmm.
I do the same thing every morning from, a little bit of reflection in the morning to a strong cup of coffee, some reading, the shower, walk the dog, and then I'm at work and I'm attacking that list. And then I know at a certain time when I have to knock off for the kids or whatnot, I switch over to that. But I think the real key is knowing exactly what you need to try to get accomplished during the day and just attack that list. I mean, it's not anything scientific, but that's literally how I manage my day is that I don't have fancy software or anything like that. It is literally 4 quadrants on a piece of paper on my pad, and I fill that out every morning and I attack that list.
Yeah, I mean, simple in many cases is best. I see the exact same thing, Scott, where so many people are spending more time trying to find a technology or a tool to help them to automate or speed something up that essentially can be done very, very quickly if you take out a pad of paper. And I'm the same way. So yes, I have my calendar is online, Google Calendar. I can access it from my phone or from my laptop or my desktop. I can access it when I'm, in Japan or in Europe. It doesn't matter where I am. But I also always carry a book with me, a notepad or kind of a booklet, I should call it, where every single day, actually before the evening, so for example, tonight, before I leave the office, I will write down what I need to have done tomorrow, what the priorities are. And then when I come into the office tomorrow, I know exactly what I need to do in exactly the order. And so while it's all online, I also keep it in paper because it allows me to cross it off. And I refer to both throughout the day. But yeah, it's amazing how sometimes just the simple old school approach can really help you to be much more productive rather than trying to use a complicated technology or online tool that in many cases you can spend more time trying to figure out and use than if you apply the same amount of time, you just get actually more done in your business.
Right, exactly. I would imagine most of your consultants are either A, independent consultants, or B, people with smaller firms. And I
Hmm.
would imagine for the most part, that to do list is not terribly complicated. I mean, at the end of the day, you know what needs to be taken care of, and just writing it down on a pad and staring at it helps focus the mind. And I find that when I am in the weeds or overwhelmed or whatnot, is that going back to that pad and just looking at, okay, what is something simple on this list that I can knock out to make progress and just scratch that off is a big boost in knowing that I'm making some progress.
Yeah, terrific. How has your approach to marketing changed in your consulting business over the years?
So that is certainly the biggest change with the business and really is continuing to evolve. And so we talked about, I know that that's one thing that you really hammer home in your program is finding out who your ideal target market or customer is. And
Hmm.
so that was really a focus for me thinking about that with your program and even after. And I probably took a different slant than what most consultants would do, or probably even your program, where I would imagine most people are spending a lot of time trying to reach the direct end customers. And sometimes that is certainly good depending upon your business. Like, say, for instance, a coach like yourself, you obviously want to contact lots of different individuals and whatnot. And it's an easy conversation to have. Whereas our target customers are large multinational firms interested in implementing these very specific
Sure.
technologies. And what I found in trying to reach those end customers is that it's a very crowded channel, meaning that everybody wants to do business with the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 50 or whatnot. And so, for the most part, their procurement systems are really set up to say no or only let certain people in. But what I found is that if you're to go lower in the distribution channel of those technologies and technology services, that lots of these large firms like Cisco or Oracle or whatnot, they all have business partners that spend lots of money going out and doing sales and marketing, trying to reach these folks. And so what our strategy ended up morphing into was actually going after that second tier of service providers. What we found is that it was a very uncrowded channel, especially if you have specific niche technical skills that not a lot of people have.
Hmm. So have you found that because the market is so crowded by trying to reach the end client directly, that by connecting with these, kind of second tier or suppliers to, let's just call it the Fortune 500 client, they already have the relationship with the procurement.
Exactly.
And so it's right. Got it.
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Yeah. And so that's typically how we're making contact with a lot of these folks. And we also get referrals where typically someone has blown something up with one of the technologies that we specialize in,
Hmm.
and we're asked to come in and rescue the ship. And that's often how a lot of our relationships start.
So how does that work? Because some consultants, will hear that, and this is not necessarily an approach that is foreign to, like there's consultants using this approach, and it's one that I know I've had many conversations with people about. But I know that one of the concerns that comes up for people is there will be an erosion of your margin. That if you're working with a supplier and they're connecting you to, in this case, let's say the Fortune 500 company, that maybe your rates are X, but they're going to charge the client Y, or they're going to take a percentage of what you would actually charge. So how have you found it best to structure your fees to ensure that you're still receiving the level of compensation that is very profitable for you?
I think that's an excellent point. And here's the calculus of why I decided to go with this marketing program versus the direct side. So, someone in my position could literally spend months, years, maybe more trying to say, get in at a Home Depot or a Coca Cola,
Hmm.
right? And those firms are all crowded channels. Typically, trying to do direct business and get the CIO on the phone is nearly impossible. So you have that opportunity cost of sitting around waiting for the Home Depot CIO to take your call versus, okay, I can go to this particular regional business partner. I may not be getting the full boat rate that this partner might be getting from that customer,
Hmm.
but I'm getting the business quicker. I'm doing business with these type of firms. I'm establishing my relationships with them, working in those type of environments. And I'm also getting the opportunity to do other projects with those particular business partners. So typically what we find is that we get in and start working with those business partners. And they may say, this is going great. We have another project. Could you help us out on this? Do you have someone that could do this, that could do that? And so literally we've had some projects or some of these business partners that we have made contact through what we call disaster marketing, where we know that they're looking for help on a particular technology. We may do a small $50,000, $60,000 deal with them, but the lifetime value of that particular partner, because of all the different stuff that they bring us in on,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got some that are millions of dollars of revenue that they brought in over the years, hundreds
Right.
of thousands of dollars of billable hours of revenue for us. So that's the calculation, is that you can either wait as a small consulting firm or an independent consultant and wait for that Fortune 10 or 50 CIO to take your call, or attack the distribution channel, get the revenue, and then you're doing the work in those firms. And ultimately, when they do take your call, hopefully you can say, yeah, we're doing business with this group now, or we've done business at this particular company. So we're
Mm-hmm.
very familiar with those type of environments. And it establishes your bona fides, if you will, your credentials. So when that call does come, it kind of goes back to my opening comments about making sure that your buyer is comfortable with your background, that you can A, be trusted, and B, actually do the work. So that's how our strategy has evolved and moves along.
For people to really maximize this strategy, I think you've implemented this into your business, because if you are giving up on margin in order to be introduced to work with this end client, right, through the supplier, or we can call it, kind of this agency that you're being introduced through, you need to be able to scale, because if not, then you could be given more and more hours, but that's going to fill up, as an independent consultant, a lot of your own time. And then you'll end up with a full schedule at full capacity, but not earning the level of revenue or income that you'd like to per hour, per day, and so forth. So really, to maximize the benefit of this, it's about having more leverage and really being able to put more resources and more people into an organization so that you can increase your overall billables, which is really the structure and approach that I think that you've taken here, Scott. So can you just spend a minute and share, what does the structure of your business look like, and how have you formed it so that you have more leverage and you're able to scale your consulting business?
So the way that we're structured is that it's obviously me, and then I have a number of subcontractors, either independents or specialty firms, that I pull in for given projects. And that's typically the way that I operate. So I've got some vendors, smaller companies that I've worked with for literally 8 or 9 years, where we're doing work together.
Mm-hmm.
And I may leverage those folks that perhaps are a little bit more or are higher cost, but I'm leveraging them to get us into a given account so we can expand out and really try to get additional resources onto those projects that are perhaps pure independents or lower cost folks as well. But that's typically how we operate, is that it's a nexus, if you will, of individual independent contractors or specialty firms that we may bring in to help kind of open the door if we have an opportunity. So that's really the strategy. I think the tools that we're using on that, a lot of LinkedIn Recruiter, and then Upworks has
Mm-hmm.
been, another area that I utilize. But for those that are listening and want to use that strategy, using something like LinkedIn Premium, LinkedIn Recruiter is typically how I at least initially identify contractors that I want to work with who have the technical skills and are perhaps in the geographic area that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I always say to consultants, spend time building your bench before you even need it, because you want to have the ability to take on projects and fulfill on high value opportunities. Clearly, you've done a very good job at that, Scott. You mentioned like disaster marketing, right? That there's a way where you can identify which organizations, which suppliers or second tier companies you can connect with and get into, and they then are the ones that introduce you and kind of bring you into to serve the end client, call it the Fortune 500 company. How do you actually do that? I mean, for people listening saying, okay, this is a great strategy. I could see this working for me. I like the idea of building a team and managing it to fulfill in this capacity. What do they need to do? How do they identify these, as we're kind of calling like the second tier companies, and what should their outreach to them look like? How do they get meetings?
So I'll give you the exact template of one that we did. I guess it must have been a year or two ago. I guess it's got to be 2 years, and we've been doing
Time flies, right?
guys. Yeah. And again, this is a fairly low tech solution, but I found it to be fairly effective, when something does hit. And so on one of my browser pages, I think on Yahoo, I have all sorts of RSS feeds looking at various jobs for certain technologies that we work in, and even RSS feeds for some of the regional partners that we might be interested in doing business with. And so typically I'll review those every now and then. If there's something that looks interesting, I will try to find somebody on LinkedIn that works at that firm and looks like they might be in charge of that particular area. And then, I literally go through on LinkedIn and I write them a note saying, hey, I noticed that you're looking for help with this particular technology. I know that you're trying to hire someone. And literally I say, while you're looking for that perfect new hire, I'd like to offer my firm's services while you look for that person in the meantime. And if you need help in these particular technologies, let us know. We'd certainly love to talk with you. And we've gotten several responses from that. And like I said, those have turned into, six-figure streams of revenue and have turned into some great relationships. And so that's a very simple type of model that I have used, just looking at something like that. To kind of fast forward now, what we're in the process of doing is actually implementing more account-based marketing. I've got a great marketing resource off of Upworks, and we've been working on a go-to-market strategy where we're doing more direct outreach, kind of showcasing some of these technologies that we work with and trying to make contact that way with some of these customers and being more proactive that way.
Great.
That is literally an email that made me $400,000 through LinkedIn. Was doing something simple like that. And again, not calling them on the phone constantly, but just saying, hey, noticed you need some help while you're looking for that perfect new hire. If you need immediate assistance, please feel free to call upon me.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Terrific. Scott, I remember from the work that we did together before on your business that health was very important to you. What do you do to stay on top of your game? I know you mentioned part of your routine is, you're up at the same time every day, you're doing some reflection, you're taking the dog for a walk. But I remember that you certainly spent time on thinking about health. And I'm just wondering, how do you stay on top of your game? What is your daily routine and habits look like?
Typically, what I will do, and this has changed a little bit this year just because I've been so busy, but typically at lunch, I'm fortunate that the gym that I go to, it's what I'll say a CrossFit light style gym is very close to my house. And typically I will go there at lunch and work out. Now I'm going in the evenings. I'll probably go in the next hour here or so, but I go probably 3 or 4 times a day or 3 or 4 times a week. If I was going 3 or 4 times a day, I would be dead.
Yeah, you'd be in a different category.
Yeah, but I definitely do that. And then I have historically been a distance runner as well, and was actually injured last year, but I've been coming back from those injuries and hoping to do more this year. But the CrossFit style stuff has really been my primary thing that I've been doing, and then trying to run on the weekends as well, and just being active with the kids. But definitely having the weightlifting component is really big. The endurance component, if anyone's done anything with CrossFit, you certainly know how intense that can be. And I think that just goes back again to, as we were talking about in kind of the pre-show,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that if you can get through something like that and just knowing I only have to push a little bit more to the end. It's amazing how that translates into the business day of, can I just work on this problem a little bit more? Can I make a little bit more progress and just see if it'll crack open?
Yeah. So for everyone, well, all of you weren't on the pre-show, obviously, but what Scott and I were just discussing is kids and schedules and health and sports. And I was saying, Scott was mentioning about his kids playing soccer and all that. And I was saying for me as well, that really resonates because when I was growing up, I spent, all of my youth really focused on sports. I was very competitive. And one of the things that it taught me was the mindset of, if there's something that I want to get done, it's not a question of whether or not it's going to happen. Like it will, as long as I'm committed to it. I've certainly brought that to all of the businesses that we've built, that we've sold, that we continue to work on, and the work that we do with our clients. Like, it's amazing. And so clearly, Scott, you've benefited from that. I know I have, and I know many others that have as well, in terms of just developing like that mindset of success, of consistency, of just work it a little bit more, have good work ethic, and put in a little bit more, and done the right way, it really compounds like a good investment, and you see a much greater overall result from that.
Exactly. And I think for everyone who's listening, who, even if you're not physically active now, even just walking 30 minutes, even just doing some type of exercise, it pays incredible dividends. And I think that is a huge competitive advantage. So if you're not exercising at least an hour a day or even 30 minutes a day, you're doing yourself a disservice, because if you're tired, you have no energy, you're not going to do your best work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can all find ways to fit it in. I know some people will tell themselves, I can't do it. I need to put it off. I'm too busy. But that is a short-term mindset, right? That's thinking about how busy you are right now and not recognizing what's going to happen to you potentially from a health perspective, a mindset perspective, down the road. If you continue doing that, you're probably not going to end up reaching your goals. Right. You're not going to feel that good about yourself, and you're going to look back and you're going to regret it.
Exactly.
So yeah, setting up that habit is so important.
Well, exactly. It would be the same as people that are running a business now, not doing any marketing because they're too busy on projects. So it's one of those that you got to make time to do those things as well.
100%. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing a bit of your story with us. Really do appreciate it. It's been an honor and pleasure for me to watch the growth of your business over some time here, and I'm excited to see your continued growth and success. I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work. What's the best place for them to go to find out about you and your company?
You can go to our homepage, Eastin IT, that's Eastin with an I, itsecurity.com, and you can find out all about us there.
Terrific. Scott, thanks again so much.
Michael, thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.